Nice, nice. So we've got Professor James Elliott joining us here.
Welcome to the studio.
How are you?
I'm absolutely fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Academic Director of the, is it Kolling Institute?
Kolling Institute.
Kolling Institute.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about that. That's been around for what, 1920? It's the oldest institute around.
We are, in fact, we are the oldest medical health research institute in New
Wow.
South Wales. We're about 120 some odd, or 105, 6 years old. We are very generously supported through a joint venture agreement between the Northern Sydney Local Health District and the University of Sydney.
Nice. So there's a lot of love there.
There's a lot of love.
A lot there.
I
There's
have
a lot of money.
I have a mom and a dad as my boss, and they get along really well, and they generously look after us.
You're privileged.
Very exceptionally.
Privileged.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about your role there. Well, what do you actually do there?
Well, as the academic director, I'm overseeing strategy, the research strategy. We have about 135 level A through level E researchers, so they're academics primarily.
Yeah.
They either work for the Northern Sydney Local Health District as clinicians, or they are employed by the University of Sydney. And historically, we are what's called a biomedical research institute. For those of you out there that might not know what that means, it means we have laboratories where we get people looking at cells and blood and lots of different things. But we're so very lucky because we are physically attached to a large tertiary hospital, the Royal North Shore Hospital, which basically means we can discover and implement findings much easier than other institutes that stand alone.
Wow, amazing. Congratulations
Yeah,
for that.
thank you.
When you hear blood, I freaked out when you hear blood. Like
Or when you see blood.
Well, it's funny how you say that because you see a lot of big grown men, right?
Yeah.
When they cut their little finger, they faint. A lot of people, they can't handle blood. So for you, you're working with, your cells and you're doing research and all that. So that must be very challenging as well at times for you.
Well, I didn't say I work with the blood.
Oh, yeah.
It's the really clever people that work with the blood.
Okay.
I just help them
You just help
get
them?
their job.
You just boss them around?
Give them the infrastructure. No, there's no
No,
bossing
there's
going
no
around.
boss, no.
We have a very good, I'd like to say we have a very good culture of collaboration.
Love
I
that.
think, what's the old African proverb? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
That's true.
And we work very closely together.
Great. Well, I know you've got another passion, which is about keynote speaking. Tell us about that.
Well, it's a newfound passion, I think. I've always actually really enjoyed the wonderful opportunity to have a microphone in my hand and get on a stage. And for 20 some odd years as an academic, I've been at mainly conferences, giving talks and whatnot, and I just feel very comfortable up there. I think, most people wouldn't feel very comfortable publicly
Absolutely.
speaking, and it didn't come naturally at first, but this whole idea of keynote speaking is because I feel like I've got a lifetime of stories that
needs to be heard and
that
shared.
maybe people would like to hear them.
Sure.
Yeah.
So your keynote is called Making the Invisible Visible. That's a striking title for a scientist, though. What exactly has been invisible and who has been failing to see it?
Making the invisible visible really has been a passion of mine in the sense that I'm going to describe it as a car collision. Let's say some listeners out there have been involved in a car crash, and hopefully they weren't injured. But, what I've learned over the last 25 years working in multidisciplinary collaboration is that two people could be in the same car, stopped at a red light, hit from behind, and both of them sadly might be injured. But one of those individuals just recovers beautifully, spontaneously, and often in spite of what we might offer them in medical and health care. Whereas the other person in the car sadly takes a little longer to recover, if ever. And so that question becomes well, why? What's wrong? So more times than not, those folks will go to medical care. They might go to the emergency room, they see the GP, they get an x-ray taken, and there's nothing seen. There's nothing to point to say that's the problem. So our job has been always to try and figure out, well, what's not on the scan? What is there that we can actually see and treat that?
Do you feel that that's a mindset or it's an environment that these people live in every day that contribute to that?
It's a really good question, Davey. I think if you dig down deep into it, is that no one adult is going to come to an injury having lived life in a vacuum. They all have their own experiences, and those experiences can either enhance someone's resiliency and ability to recover, or sadly can expose some vulnerabilities. I don't want anyone to think, though, that what we're saying is that if you have had early life adversities, that you're condemned to a life of chronic
course
problems.
not. No,
Not
of
at
course
all.
not, yeah.
That's quite the contrary. It's just that it's on us in medicine and healthcare to build a trusting relationship with the patient so that we can understand better what is driving this clinical course.
Great.
Why is it so important, this keynote of yours, that you have to share it with your audience?
Look, the opportunity to get in front of the people who are probably themselves looking for answers in some of these things is really quite a responsibility. I also feel it is my responsibility because I'm in a position where I'm afforded these opportunities to get up in front. And if I didn't say anything, I would feel like I'm being silent.
When you're saying silent, it's interesting. So you've got so much knowledge in that area, and over the years, when you do this keynote speaking, can you give us one example of or one takeaway that actually changed someone's life?
I can think of a few. I'll tell you what is the most enjoyable aspect of giving a talk, be it at a conference or on a keynote. Inevitably, someone will come up to you at the end of it and say, "Can I have a quick word?"
Oh, you're
And you
in
say,
trouble.
"Yeah, sure." No, you might be in trouble. You might have said the wrong thing. But they then share their own story. They then say,
True.
"Wow, how courageous for you." And I think, I appreciate them saying it's courageous for me, but I feel like it's my duty. I feel like it's our duty to actually share these stories so that people can hopefully benefit from it, or at least have a little bit more confidence in saying there's help out there.
Yeah.
There is support.
You spent 25 years studying trauma and pain. Why?
Look, the easy answer is my first career. I caught and threw a baseball for a living and thought for sure I was going to play Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
You can tell from my accent I'm not from the north or south side
No,
of the city
correct.
bridge.
Yeah.
And so my first career was shortened by my own injury. And I never really responded well to the healthcare. Despite they gave me great healthcare, I just wasn't getting better. And so that was the beginning of a lifelong passion to try and understand, this thing called recovery. Knowing recovery has never, to my knowledge, been measured the same way twice. What's recovery for you, Valentina, is different than recovery for Davy and myself. And so it took me about 40 years to come clean. And it's a bit of a heavy topic, but we can't shy away from it. I think we need to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. And my own childhood traumas became, they captured me. And I needed to be able to say, I need some help. In this case, I'm going to talk about men, but we are certainly not ignoring our wonderful hold hands in life with our women. But let's talk about men who've had childhood traumas, is that many of them, well, we know 65% of them will take about 30 some odd years to disclose. Some people find agency in non-disclosure. They don't want to tell anybody.
Correct.
But there's a lot of barriers to this thing called disclosure, and it's, fear, shame. What will people think of me if I tell them this? Will I suddenly not be the tough big guy that society tells me I need to be? In actual fact, I can tell you, having spent 40 years trying to be that big tough guy, I feel tougher now having been vulnerable and told people my story.
I think that's the best thing. I think sharing your vulnerability opens up so many doors and conversations with other people to allow other people to just break down their wall and become their wholesome self, right?
Absolutely. And again, this is more common than we'd like to think. Sadly, the statistics are sort of 1 in 3, 1 in 4 women, and it's 1 in 6 men have. So that means the next time you're at the grocery store, the next time you're at the theater, if you look around, for every 6 men you see, 1 of them probably has a history of this early life childhood abuse.
Why do you feel that men, we don't talk? Like, this is a taboo conversation that a lot of people always talk, but do you feel that we men, we talk when we're drunk, when we're at the pub and we tell our friends a problem, but everyone's bloody drunk, they just don't go?
Look, that's a good question. I think whether you come from Vietnam, the UK, Canada, America, Australia, it's pretty much the same thing. Society tells us it's not okay to cry. Society tells us it's not okay to be vulnerable. Society tells us we got to stand up and be tall and macho. And I think that, sadly, is interpreted in the wrong way. It's a misinformed approach to going through this thing called life. I realize there are consequences to my own righteousness, and I'm not here to tell men how to live their life. But I'll tell you what, being a little bit more divinely masculine is not a bad way to go.
But tell me something. 25 years of studying in terms of the human body now. What can you share with us today?
Here's what I've learned from our
Yeah.
trauma work, and we were talking about it earlier today at Royal North Shore, and we have amazing trauma retrieval medicine services there. Is that we talked about no two people are going to have the same recovery response, right? But I think what we've really learned is that these injury events and these traumas are not only injurious, they can cause injury, but they're stressful.
Okay.
And there's a huge biological, psychological consequence to the stress around these events. You carry it with you, and you're carrying that stress. You might look good, but you don't work so well.
Correct. So do you feel stress is really contributing to a lot of people's depression, anxiety, and overall health?
Think about all the factors that go into this, and we can never even begin to scratch the surface of all the factors that drive our clinical experience.
Yeah.
We are constantly looking for the injury, a cut, a fracture, which is easy to see and easy to fix. But going back to making the invisible visible, there's a whole bunch of other factors there. Like this wasn't my fault. This is perceived injustice. I'm constantly upset about that. I might not sleep very well. Depression, anxiety. I might try to cope through other mechanisms that aren't really socially acceptable, and that's drugs and alcohol.
Tell us about your second book, Things People Say.
A very different book than
Yes,
the first
very
one,
different.
for sure. I have to give a plug to a gentleman, Dr. Ed Jacobson, who's no longer with us. Rest in peace. He was a mentor of mine in 1998, and he was an older gentleman then. He says, "Look, James, I've got a task for you. I want you to keep a piece of paper there in your clinic rooms, and anytime a patient says something that you just were kind of moved by, write it down." And I thought, what the hell am I going to do that for? Because if you do that consistently, I promise you, over your career, you're going to have this rich tapestry of things people say.
Sure.
And so I took him up on it.
Valid point.
And I kept that document open for 30 some odd years, and nearly 30 years.
Right.
And wherever I was, at a pub in Glasgow, Scotland, on a plane in LA to Brisbane, or it didn't matter. If I heard something, I just immediately wrote it down. And lo and behold, I got about 380 pages of quotes and things people have said.
Yeah.
And I've turned it into a little book, into my own interpretation of these quotes.
Yeah. On page 85, I've got a favorite quote because I've gone through all the pages, and one of them is quoted, "Only children truly know the value of our world. So that's why I've never grown up."
That's a good thing, but isn't it?
David Attenborough.
Actually put this in writing. Is it just fun?
I think I needed to have a little bit of fun after I posted the last
Sure,
book.
sure.
I really
Yeah.
did. That was a huge dive and deep dump of me on the table. And I think just for my own mental health and energy, I thought, right, I love writing. I'm not saying I'm a good writer, but I love writing, and it's very innovative and creative for me. So I thought, right, how can I turn that things people say into something that potentially lives on your coffee table at home, and you don't have to read it on a day-to-day basis, but whenever you pick it up, you go to a page like you just did, and you find a quote that goes, kind of just makes you stop, repause, Control Alt Delete.
Yeah, true.
And so hopefully people can really lean into it. And
Well,
enjoy it.
I'm intrigued. Look at your book. Less finger pointing and more thumb pointing. What's the difference?
Oh, look, you know how we're very quick in life to point fingers at someone for you messed up.
Oh, true.
It's your problem, not mine. So less finger pointing and a little bit more thumb pointing back at me, at myself, to say, oh, hang on, where's my responsibility in this relationship gone wrong?
That's a good idea.
Now, you're revealing your third book today, aren't you, on air? You're going to share that, but if you're going to share it, just don't give away too much. Tell us what to expect.
All right, so the third book, I've just put the final full stop on it, actually, and now we're getting some editing done. As we shared earlier, just briefly, baseball was a big part of my life growing up, and I was fortunate enough to sign a contract with San Diego Padres and play some professional baseball for a while. And then I worked in Major League Baseball for another 6 or 7 years. And I left the game, and I'm not going to go into reasons why that was a great decision for me, because there was some abuse as a kid. But anyway, it took me 27 years. I come back to Australia. My son comes home from school one day and he says, "Dad," he's 9 years old, he says, "Dad, I've got this great teacher, Matt Dolan. And Matt plays baseball." And he asked me if I played. I said, no. I told him, no, I like soccer, but my dad played. I said, you didn't tell him anything about like my history, like I played professionally. He goes, no, I didn't say anything. but he wants you to come out. And I went, nah. I just thought it was going to be a bunch of old guys drinking beer and not competitive. So anyway, long story short, he convinced me to come back, and I've been playing for the Kringai Steelers and coaching them for the past few years. It's it's a great comp. We've got teams all over Sydney. Baseball is a big sport here, I started writing. This is where I think it gets kind of fun. I have a journalistic background. I started writing post-game reports every Saturday, and I'd pop them on our team's WhatsApp page. No one said a thing, and I was like, this is probably going to die. You know, it's a well-intentioned idea that just needs to die. About 3 weekends later of no reports, one of our players, I can mention Yutaro Okuda from Japan, says, James-san,
James-san.
can I ask? I said, yeah, in front of everybody. Are you going to resurrect those post-game reports? And my heart stopped. I was like,
he's been reading it.
He's been reading.
Yeah, and all these blokes now on the team are like, yeah, man, we really love it. And we've got 2 guys from Japan, 2 guys from Colombia, 3 guys from South Africa, a couple guys from New Zealand, Aussies, Americans. We're a United Nations team.
Wow.
And I just thought, oh my God, this is what we're talking about with bringing guys together to have a community around this thing called baseball.
They have a love of the game.
They have a love of this game.
Yeah.
Correct.
And it brings us together. And
That's
so
fantastic.
I thought this is a book about post-game reports, but it's also a book about community, the importance of being together.
Now, I want to talk about, we're just changing gears now, because you're about to, again, because you have spoken on the NASA's platform, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to be going there in May. Now, as a member of NASA's Astronaut Spine Working Group, what I want to know is when astronauts go out to space, the human body, what does it do to us? Is there any difference, actually?
Look, I mean, I've learned so much by working with colleagues at NASA about extraterrestrial health and optimizing human performance.
Extraterrestrial
Is there
health.
alien? No. One question I want to know is that is there an alien out there?
Oh man, I don't know that. I can't
Well, you'll be working with these guys and girls. Surely they can share some little secret with you.
I don't think they share either. They're an amazing group of high-performing humans, men and women, who are just so dedicated to their mission. But here's the most important thing that I learned from the folks at NASA, is that whether you're from Russia, Japan, it doesn't matter. You're all working together to have a successful operation up there in space. And what we're learning from this, from a health perspective, is that you can imagine for us here on the Earth, if you laid in bed for a week and didn't get up, the physiological stress that occurs on your body is so profound, so quick. You lose muscle mass.
Really?
Yeah, you lose bone mineral density. You become more frail. You're at risk for maybe even kidney problems because you're spewing out too much calcium in your bones, etc. from your bones. Same thing up there. As they're orbiting low Earth, on the International Space Station, and they're exposed to less gravity than we normally would be, profound changes to their muscle system, to their cardiovascular system. And so there's a group called the flight surgeons, and the flight surgeons are the medical doctors who look after the astronauts, but they also have this beautiful team of rehabilitation specialists, engineers, psychologists, and they are all working together to ensure optimizing health and well-being for the astronauts. So we're learning a lot from them up there as to what happens to people down here when they're lying in our hospital beds.
Wow.
So true.
Now,
that's exciting. I like that.
Just before we go on a break, there's a keynote that you're talking about, AI in medicine, right? Do you want to share what the audience is going to be hearing from you?
Yeah, well, sure. I think, and it's evolving really, but I heard the other day about, someone asked me this question about AI, and I said, when's it's coming and what are we going to do to prepare for it? I says, we're already preparing for it. We're already using it. The good news is, I used to go to the radiology conferences in America every year, Radiological Society of North America. And gosh, 10, 15 years ago, the conversation was around fear of machine learning, replacing their jobs as radiologists. That fear doesn't exist anymore. And the reason is we've learned how to work with those things. And AI is great. I love it. I use it. But it needs a handhold.
Sure, it definitely does.
And that's now more of our radiology colleagues. I'm not a radiologist, but I work with them every day. So I said, well, gosh, the amount of throughput of patient cases we can get through in a day with AI is monumental.
Really?
Yeah, but our job now is just checking to make sure it did the right thing.
I want to tap base on another subject, which is one of your other keynotes on trauma is not destiny. Okay, so that's your central argument. Now, what I want to push back gently is there is a point at which trauma does become a destiny, though. Would you agree at some level?
Talk to me about that.
So what I mean is, like, it's not that we go out and want to be disappointed or challenged in that aspect. It just seems to, our life is written in that way, if that makes sense.
But can we have a mindset to change that? It's not really a destiny.
I think I'm picking up what you're putting down here.
Yeah.
In that, I'm not going to mention names, but I have a dear friend here in Sydney who tried to take his life when he was a young boy. He didn't succeed. I use that term very lightly. He survived, but he was now and is now a paraplegic. But in actual fact, if you talk to him, he'll tell you that is the best thing that's ever happened to him.
Oh, really?
Because now he's a champion for looking after young men.
Wow.
And he's on the circuit doing his talks, and he just actually broke the Guinness Book of World Record for pull-ups for a paraplegic. I mean, he is a legend this year. Matt Caruana, if you come across him and want to look him up, he's brilliant. So in that case, perhaps maybe you could make the argument that trauma is a destiny. But I don't think it defines us.
Yes,
right?
I agree.
And that, from my perspective, trauma that happened a long time ago did not have to be my life story. So move on. I got help for it. And I think that's another thing, if you don't mind me saying, there is support out there for men who may be listening to this. And Survivors and Mates Support Network here in Sydney, SAMSN, samsn.org.au, it's all free. You can call someone, and our tagline is, you can call a mate who can relate.
Sure.
It's peer reviewed.
Okay. Now, do we have time to do the 5 quickie questions?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Quick one.
Quick ones, okay?
5 quickie
this
questions.
is the
Oh my
end
God.
of our
Alright, let's do
interview,
it.
right? We ask all our guests that come in. So, question number 1. You've advised NASA on what happens to the spine in space, right? Have you ever looked up at the night sky and thought, I would genuinely like to go up there? Or does knowing too much about what it does to the human body make that a firm no?
Yes, I want to go up there. Yes, I'm a little concerned, but yes, I'm in good hands.
Oh, great. Oh my God. Okay, so you played professional, this is question 2, sorry. You played professional baseball before becoming a world-leading pain researcher. Is there any part of you that still wonders what might have happened if you'd kept throwing?
Every day.
Every day?
Every day, really?
But it doesn't haunt me.
Okay.
I promise.
Okay.
But yeah, I think, gosh, I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was.
Yes.
But you're still back. But you're still playing nowadays.
Yeah.
You're still doing it every day. So it's not like he's not giving. It's not like he gave up on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's more to do with the professional.
Yeah.
Okay. So question 3.
Why am I'm nervous. Go on.
No,
go on.
no, that's good. That's good.
I made it through 2. What are the next 3? Come on.
Base 3. All right. Gonna hit the hard yard here. You study the human body at a level most of us will never understand. Does that make it harder or easier to sit in a doctor's waiting room as an ordinary patient?
Well, no, because look, I'm not a medical physician. I just am in medical research. So if I've got a problem that requires a medical physician, you don't want to come to me for that.
Okay.
You want to go to your doctor, right?
Yeah.
So no, I'm in good hands there too.
Oh, good. Question 4. You've written 3 books. At what point in the writing process do you most want to abandon it entirely, and what stops you?
Oh, dealing with formatting and the margins.
Formatting. I know.
My God.
It is,
Like you put a
isn't it?
picture on one page and you didn't do a page break, and the next thing you know, it's all mucked.
It's all much up. Yeah, totally understandable.
Bloody crazy.
And
One more. That's
one more.
it.
Yep. Trauma is not destiny. If you had to put your entire life's work on a bumper sticker, and it had to be under 6 words, what would it say?
Be present, not perfect.
Nice.
Yes, be present, not perfect. So I can be present. I have to be perfect every single week, okay? Just to let you know.
I'm just a present. Full stop.
James
is our
Elliott.
present.
Thank you so much, my friend.
Amazing for having me.
Oh.
Thank
I've
you.
learned so much from you today.
Likewise. Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Appreciate
James.
the opportunity.
All the best. All the best.